Good morning, Prime family. Welcome back to the channel. Guys, it's Sunday. It's Super Bowl Sunday, February the 9th. And we're out here en route to Frisco, Texas. We're going to be installing another Amana S Series R32. This is a 5-ton gas complete system. Now, this customer called us yesterday, and their main complaint was, well, they had many complaints, but the reason that they called in was that they were experiencing very high humidity in their home. And it's not something that's just been happening, it's not something that just started happening. This actually was an issue for them for probably the last 5 years. Now, they've also explained to us, they've had multiple contractors, multiple HVAC companies come out there, and man, they've tried to obviously address it, but they've never been able to find the root cause. So when we got there, obviously we're going to do a full evaluation. We're going to take a look at the ductwork. We're going to take a look at the coils, the air conditioner, the furnace, how it's running, the refrigerant levels, all that stuff. And as we're going through the whole diagnostics, we're finding out, what's been done in the past. So, this customer has replaced the coil. They've replaced the condenser outside, all in an effort really to address their root issue, which is humidity. Now, humidity comes in many forms. Now, obviously, an air conditioning system, the main purpose of an air conditioning system is to remove humidity from the air, which will then make it feel very good and comfortable inside the home. Now, that's when a system is properly sized, right? When we have all the ductwork, where we have the CFMs, so many things have to really line up perfectly for the air conditioning system to work as is it intended, as it was designed and engineered. So when we get to a home and we start seeing that parts have been replaced left and right, and they're still experiencing the same issue, the very first thing we're going to look for is ductwork. We're going to make sure that the CFMs going into the system are correctly sized, and the CFMs that's coming out of the system is also correctly sized. That usually will help 90% of all the issues that we experience, especially when we're having humidity issues. The second thing that we look for is the sizing of the system, right? Is it oversized? Is it undersized? Is it properly? Is the tonnage of the air conditioning system, is it meant for the square footage or the living space of that area? So we have to do a heat load. Heat load is, we're pretty much going around measuring the house, measuring the rooms. We're taking in consideration the windows, the insulation, the age of the house, the materials that were used during that time period when it was built. And that will give us a really good idea of what size AC unit should be installed in that home. Now, heat loads are very good and they're very important, especially when we're sizing air conditioning and heating systems. But sometimes, and we've seen it multiple times, where you do a heat load and then all of a sudden it calls for a smaller unit than what is currently there. So you got to have a little bit of common sense. You got to have a little bit of an idea of like, okay, this is typically what the square footage or what an AC unit should be for this particular type of square footage, and you go off of that. Then you're going to measure your ductwork, right? So you got to do a manual J heat load. You're going to do a manual D to get your duct sizings. All of that goes into play in when you're designing these systems, right? So after we did all of that, we figured out that the system itself, right, was properly sized, but the ductwork was a little bit off, right? So we're going to fix the ductwork. Now, the furnace in this customer's house is around 22 years old. It's an original to when this house was built. That's the only thing that they haven't replaced. And the air conditioning system that they installed, I think he told us it was like 6 or 7 years old when they replaced it. That particular system is a single stage unit, builder grade, and nothing wrong with that, right? Guys, that single stage equipment, when installed properly, is still a very good unit. But obviously the customer did his research, and when the option came up and the conversation was brought up to, hey, look, we can adjust some of this ductwork, we can try to, figure out the airflow that's going through them. Or we can just hit a reset, right? And when we do a reset, guys, it's not just to replace the system. right? Our number one priority for you, the customer, if you're watching this, our number one priority for you is to ensure that we provide the highest level of comfort year round, right? And we have to be very honest. It's a two-way street. We can always repair it. We can always try to adjust things, and we do it on a day-to-day basis for many customers. But there comes a point where, honestly, just hitting the reset button, designing the system properly, and ensuring that you are going to be comfortable in your house year round becomes a priority. And to do that, unfortunately, and now I'm kind of talking to, you contractors out there or HVAC technicians, that whenever we get to a home and we are trying to fix what another contractor or another provider did for them, there's so many unknowns. We have no idea how that unit was installed. We have no idea, the steps that were necessary when they were making repairs. All we can see is just what was done. And, we will try our very best to at least fix if there's anything that needs to be fixed and adjusted. But we all know that. Once we start adjusting these units, once we start modifying other people's work, and we know that it was probably not installed to the very best of the quality, or we know that it just doesn't look right or work right, we're gonna be married to it, and we have to be very honest with our customers, and our customers have to understand that at the end of the day, we're gonna do our very best to ensure that they're satisfied with either the repair, or they're satisfied with us hitting the reset button and designing a system that fits their home, their family, their budget. And that's what happened yesterday. We gave the customer many options, and the customer, I think, was just so frustrated. And I think if you're a homeowner, if you've dealt with home services companies in the past, I think you can probably relate. Sometimes we just don't get that satisfaction, like, they did it. They fixed it. They fixed my problem. And whenever you experience that, back to back, this customers have been experiencing it for almost 5 or 6 years now. It gets very frustrating. And I get it, and I understand it 100%. So again, our number one job is to ensure that we are reducing that stress to the customer, giving him that peace of mind, and doing our very best to make sure that system is performing year round, both in the heating and the cooling. So like I said, today I'm on my way right now to Frisco. The guys should be there. We're gonna also when I get there, I think Morgan is there. Morgan was the one who designed this whole system for this customer, so we'll get a little bit more insight in how he approached it and what he looked for, so you guys can learn and see what his thoughts are when he's looking at a situation like this. But like always, guys, it's Sunday, it's Super Bowl. I know our guys are gonna do a great job here, and hopefully we wrap this up and they can go home and watch the game and relax and enjoy the rest of the Sunday evening. So thank you guys for watching, for commenting and liking. We appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get some work done, guys. We'll see you at the job site. All right, guys, so we made it here to the job site. Mr. Morgan, how are you?
Doing good.
All right, man. You guys know this. The guys, they don't even give me a second to get here. By the time I get here, they already have the unit installed. But so like I was explaining earlier on the video, Morgan, I was telling him that this customer has been experiencing humidity issues. He's been on top of it. He's had other providers come out and work on him. And, unfortunately, it gets to the point where finding a solution, and he was just a little frustrated about it, right? Yep. A little frustrated on not being able to get this addressed finally. So coming back out here, especially with something like the Amana S series, and this customer said it himself, it's a very high-tech unit. So one of the great things about us, is you guys know this already, is that we train on these units day in and day out. I mean, this is primarily the equipment that we install on every customer that decides to get a system upgrade, right? So we've had multiple many years of installing these units, tons of experience on all the little intricate things that have to be done to make sure that this system works. And when that does happen though, you can't compete. You can't compete with the customer satisfaction, because they're going to get a high efficient unit. It's super quiet, and the one thing that this thing will do is it will help dehumidify that air. Now AC units, we all know this, they're natural dehumidifiers, right? The S series takes it to another level with the inverter system, the side discharge unit right here. This thing ramps down at a lower speed, which then dehumidifies the air even more. And within the actual system itself, now this is the Amana smart thermostat, there we can actually put a setting that can dehumidify even more. So we can adjust where we want the humidity out of this system. So any customers that usually have airflow issues, you know, ductwork is the number one thing, how those are designed, how they're sized. But if they have humidity issues, the Amana S series or any inverter system, but in particularly the S series, works magic when it comes to removing the humidity and maintaining a area or comfortability in the house. I'm just talk to the people here and tell them, when you were looking at the system yesterday, you know, what guided you, you know, to design it? How, like, what was your approach when you were looking at this system here?
So when I first came out, the customer was really frustrated with other companies, and definitely wanted to make sure that I showed everything on my diagnosis. I took videos of everything, and when I went up into the attic, it was a newer coil and it was already leaking. And then I came out to the condenser and just made sure I checked refrigerant levels and what it was at, and the coil was freezing up and the compressor was making a loud noise. And so
what does that usually mean, by the way? I mean, I know we have our tools and we obviously verify the amp draws, and we verify, my arm is dying here because I'm holding this phone, but we know when we do the diagnosis we find it. But typically for a homeowner, like if you're hearing your outdoor unit, you know how these things sound. You know, even regular cube style units, you know, most of us know how they sound. But what's a sign or a noise that usually doesn't sound good? I know you kind of did it right now, but can you explain it to them? Like, what does that usually mean?
So if you hear, like, when it's kicking on and it's this loud like clunk sound, or when it turns off there's a loud clunk sound, but when it's like gargling, it's definitely not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I mean, there's these whining noises that you can hear too.
Yeah.
The squealing, yeah.
That typically equates to what?
Like the compressor is about to fail.
Yeah, and on a newer system like that, why do they fail so early?
Install. Yeah, how it was installed.
So you talking about this part right here?
Yeah.
This part that we that we take very, very serious, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, nitrogen testing. We got to purge the lines. We have to RX flush them if it's an older refrigerant, like this one that we just took out right now, by the way, where we have the copper coming off of the wall there. No kinks on the wall, right? No kinks on the copper itself. But man, it smelled. It smelled. That's why I was asking you, like, what did you see yesterday? Because that means that compressor was probably running very hot, and the refrigerant inside was probably a little bit contaminated, right? And that just accelerates a lot of noise and issues, and eventually just major failures, you know. So guys, this part right here, the installation part, is so critical. And you know, we have some of the best installers here at our company working, and they know, you know, what it takes to install a unit, because we set the tone and the expectations. You know, nothing short of all the steps that need to be done have to be done, and we document everything throughout the entire process as our installers are doing everything. It's video, it's photos, and it's a checks and balance. Right, Morgan, you can't be here at the job site, even though I would love you to be at the job site all day, right? But it's checks and balances, because at the end of the day, our number one goal, our number one priority, aside from installing these awesome units, is the customer satisfaction. You know, especially like a customer that we have today, we want to make sure that he sees the difference. You know, not only in the process of designing and giving them options, but he sees the difference during the install, and more important, he sees the difference after the fact. Right. You know, that's where we really strive to be the very best. After the fact, you know, the sell happens, the install happens, all that stuff, but what makes a company different, a relationship between a contractor and a customer, is the after fact. You know, how we support the customer throughout the rest of the life of this unit that we're going to be installing here for them.
And even how we back everything with warranties and guarantees and everything like that as well. Is like, because I know other companies, they'll also just give like a 1-year labor warranty
Yeah.
because it's just something crazy. But I think that's pretty cool how we stand behind our stuff.
Well, we have to, man. You know, that's what sets us apart and will continue to set us apart. So, all right, guys, I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to show you some of the process as they're installing. And then let's go up to the attic. I want you to tell them what you saw when we went up there, okay? All right.
So we are also replacing this 99-year furnace, and it did have different repairs done to it. So they did replace the blower motor and capacitor and all that stuff. And it looks maybe they even replaced this inducer motor too. But with even this guy's concerns was with humidity. AC does remove humidity, but having a variable speed motor also helps that ramp down to make it cooler and more comfortable inside your house as well. Alrighty, so when I came up here yesterday and I'm designing a system, I definitely want to make sure that I look at the right CFM going out and going into the system with the return and the supply. Most of the time you would just add a return and maybe it be good, but with us, especially with these higher efficient systems, you have to make sure that the right CFM going out as well on the supply side matches what the unit calls for. And this is a 5-ton, so it does require 2000 CFM, and you can't just put that on the return, you also have to put that on the supply side as well. With all of our installs, we always do this hung right kit, make sure it keeps it level, it's like a cradle for the system. And then we do the April Air filters, which is a really high MERV rated filter. And then on every install, we definitely pull permits on everything, even on a Sunday.
Well, that's 100% correct, Morgan. You know, pulling permits on every job is so critical. It just creates a trust that you can't really get anywhere else, right? Having no skin in the game, having a city come out, double checking the work not only means that we're ensuring that we're following all the state codes, but the city codes too. Every city is different. We all follow the main state code, but every city has their own little things. We're here in Frisco, Texas. Sound like the Grinch. And Frisco is one of the most detailed, I would say that, one of the most detailed cities around, which is great because it really does ensure that any contractor that's doing any kinds of trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, that they are following the highest standards possible. Okay, guys, which is easy for us because all we do here is get green tags. Okay, follow the rules, you do it correctly, you go above and beyond, you're gonna have nothing but success. Now, I'll tell you, when we do complete systems, you guys know this, one of the other things that is overlooked is always the drains, right? So we're gonna be doing the drain pans. The drain pan allows us, if that coil ever freezes up, we need something there to catch that, right? Catch the water, catch the ice. But all of our primary drains come with the Easy Trap EasyT210. This is a very, very awesome product because it's a P-trap, right? So it allows the water to collect in here, but it comes with a kill switch as well. So if the primary drain ever gets backed up, we're gonna have a safety switch already built into here. And it comes with a clean out brush. So when the techs come out to do their routine maintenance, it's easy to just clean out the P-trap. No more trying to cut this, no more trying to, you know, like Morgan showed you outside, have pyramids of connections. That's the last thing we want to do. And for that, we install our Jones valve, right? So this little part right here gets connected to the P-trap. It has a little valve up here with a little port. It means our technicians, when we come out and we do our maintenances, or if the drain's ever clogged up, no more needing to cut that PVC and glue it. All we have to do is unscrew this, hook up our hose, flush it out nicely, close it, open it, and then we can clear it out even more with the brush here. Now that helps ensure that the primary is good. So then you're asking yourself, all right, George, Morgan, Prime, well, what happens if the drain pan does get water, right? There's nothing on the water. That's where you are incorrect, my friends. So every install that we install as well comes with a BG101 safety switch. This little switch right here goes on the pan as well. Let me get out Mr. Juan himself. Mr. Lead installer, say hi, man. Hi. I'm just telling him all the great work that you do, man. Guys, so this right here, what this does is if that pan, you know, gets filled up with water for whatever reason, right? This safety switch here is only for the drain itself. This is for the pan, and it's very sensitive. Right here, if you look at the very bottom, there's little holes in there. If it senses any water whatsoever, very, very quickly, boom, it shuts it off. And what it does is when it shuts it off, it shuts off the AC unit. Now remember the AC unit, we talked about it earlier. It's a dehumidifier, right? So it's just removing humidity from the air, and all that humidity is moisture that needs to be drained out. So if water or any of that stuff ever gets into the pan, this shuts it off. Then what that will do is it will shut off the outer unit, which will stop the production of dehumidification, which will stop the water, right? And all of this right here, these three little items right here, are so critical to ensure that one, we're following code, but two is that we're protecting the investment of this customer. Not only the unit, but what sits below the unit. Most of these homes here in North Texas where we are residing, all the units are up in the attic, right? So we are dealing with sheetrock, insulation, wood, all that stuff. And the last thing we want to do is have any kind of water issues or water or property damage. So these little devices here just gives us a little bit more peace of mind knowing that if it does get backed up, if it does get water in the pan, we have something there to shut it off, guys. So that comes on every complete install, like when Morgan designs it. There is no arguing that, and there is no going back and forth. This is a permanent deal that comes with every install that we do here at Prime. With the new A2L refrigerant. Now this system is R32. So R32, guys, you already know that we've already installed, and I want to say like 20-ish so far this year. So we've had a really good head start to knowing how these systems work. Now guys, remember these R32 units, they are pretty much the same as the 410A. The only difference is that we have to do a little bit more precaution in how we install it, the tools that we use, the procedures that we follow. And one thing that we have to do until the newer furnaces come out, and those were supposed to come out I think in Q2 of this year, is we have to install this thing called the Dragonfly board. The Dragonfly board is a board that allows us to pretty much intertwine the new technology with the old technology on these furnaces, and its only purpose in life is to shut off the unit if it ever detects any refrigerant leaks.
It has a sensor inside there for the A2L refrigerant that will actually shut the unit off if it detects any type of refrigerant leak, and then the blower will run out or inside here and dilute everything so that we can come out here and check out, see what's going on with it.
And that's literally the only thing that this thing is meant to do. It's just to shut down the AC unit, turn on the blower motor, and dilute it. In Q2 down the road, these furnaces will already be pre-configured. I think you guys saw a video. Actually, we did a system in South Lake. It was the solo single stage unit that we did. Remember that one?
Yep.
Okay, so that furnace was already from the factory. Already had the port for the new A2L. But what happened was, or why that one has it and not the new A and BC furnaces yet, is because the manufacturers across the boards, they have all first started production on like the single stage equipment, the entry level stuff, and they will obviously build up, their inventory, and then they'll slowly start to build out the rest of the inventory, right? But once that board comes out, it's easier for the installers. They have to do less connections. All they have to do is grab the wire from the coil, plug it into the board, and we are off to the races. So still an easy product, and it just allows us to continue to install the R32, which I want to say we are experts at now, right? So we say, so we think.
All right, so this is the RX11 flush that we use on all of our installs. That we are not replacing line set with. It takes all the contaminants out from the last system, and especially with this install today, there's a burning smell from the last compressor that this will actually take all of that stuff out, so the old contaminants from the last system isn't going into the new system, and it makes sure that this system lasts long. It's very easy to use for our guys, and it makes a clean line set for everything. It is compatible with the new R32 refrigerant and the 410A refrigerant as well.
see back here, Juan is working on the line set. Now Morgan explained to you guys why the RX11 flush is so important, right? We don't want contaminants, we don't want oils, we don't want anything from the old system to migrate to this new system and affect its performance. So that's important. But the second thing that's so important, especially if you're an installer, is reading the instructions, right? Learning how to properly install these systems here is so critical for the longevity of the system. Now Juan right now is working on what is known as the inverter loop, guys. That means this copper has to be above the evaporator coil, above the expansion valve. Now this one has an EEV. That's an electronic expansion valve. And it's important that we create an inverter loop to mitigate oil from going back to the compressor, slugging the compressor, and it just hampers the performance of the system. So remember, the EEV is a very critical expansion valve. It's electronically operated, so it only allows the certain amount of refrigerant to be fed into the system as that compressor outside, which is a true swing inverter compressor, as it's modulating the percentage of how much RPMs is pushing. You got to have something in here that regulates that, and having that inverter loop, whenever the system shuts off, it allows that oil to not migrate back to the compressor. Okay, very, very important. That's why you see every video that we've uploaded, you guys see, and we kind of talk about it and we show you the inverter loop. That's why that's important on here. All right, guys, here is the Dragonfly board. That's what they call it. This is the board here that allows the A2L refrigerant coils to be compatible with the old variable speed systems. Now this is, I say old, but this was actually manufactured in December of 24. It's not an old system, it's just that the manufacturer is still building the other types of furnaces before they come out with the control board that will have this already integrated into it. In the meantime, this is the board that we have to install to make this compatible. It's very straightforward here. Since this is all communicating systems, all it takes is 2 wires from the thermostat, 2 wires from the condenser, and 2 wires from the evaporator coil that will then go into the 1 and 2 of this section. And then for the equipment itself right here, we're going to go 1 and 2, which is our data, the RNC, which is going to go into our 1 and 2 RNC here, and then we're going to have our G terminal, which is going to go into our old legacy G terminal on this board right here. And remember, the only purpose of this board here is in case we ever have a refrigerant leak inside of this coil, this board will now shut the unit off to the AC. It will activate the fan, and the fan will be the only thing running, again, to help dilute the refrigerant while our team comes out here and we take a look and see what's going on. Very easy installation, just one little extra step to ensure that we make these things compatible, and hopefully by Q2 of this year, this board now will be eliminated and we'll have the board already ready to go right out of the factory.
So as you can see, we are installing the surge protection on this system because Texas, as you know, is on its own power grid, and when everyone is turning on their ACs, or today turning on their heat, we have surges here, and this protects the system from having that as well. So this is the inverter board for the Amana S system, and it is that variable speed compressor as well, and DC volted motor as well. And so the cool thing about this is that it has cloud services, so that we will know if there's an issue before you do, if there's longer run times or anything like that, or it's low on refrigerant. We can actually check through our cloud services and make sure everything is running exactly how it is, so we'll know a problem before you do.
That's right, and just like Morgan said, you know, we're able to monitor these systems via our office or via through our smartphone or tablet. One thing about the Amana S series that the manufacturer really honed in is they don't want us technicians to really be getting inside of the cabinet or fiddling with the controls or hooking up our gauges. You know, they have designed these systems from the factory to be self-sufficient, right? They wanted to do everything through the algorithm of the computer. So from the app, from the Amana Cloud Services, our guys are able to check pressures, amp draws, run time, humidity, alerts, really anything that's wrong with the system. we'll be able to tell. So when we come out and we do a service, like a tune-up, right? We're changing out the filters, we're doing all the good stuff, we're cleaning it. Our guys, all they have to do is come up with their iPad, hook up to it through the cloud service, and then we'll be able to check pressures, subcooling, superheat, the percentages on how that EEV valve is opening and closing, the percentages on the runtime on the compressor, you know, like how long is that compressor running for, at what speed, at what RPMs. Guys, it's next level HVAC, right? But that's what they did. That's what this manufacturer, like the Amanas and the Daikin Fits, what they have done is they created a system where they don't want us to get into it, right? And that just, you as the consumer, if you're watching this, you want a system that doesn't get messed with too much, right? We don't want to be messing with the programming. We don't want to be hooking up our gauges. Every time the techs hook up the gauges, it loses a little bit of refrigerant, no matter how good of a hose you have or how good of an adapter. And these systems are critically charged, and they're charged to the ounce. So anything that is removed from the system affects how this system actually works. And that's why we love the S-Series, and that's why we install them, and why our customers love them, because it ensures that we have the best foot forward for longevity. We want these systems to last 15, 20, 30 plus years, you know, and with the warranties that come with these systems, should even give you a much better peace of mind. Amana gives us 99-year compressor warranty, guys. So the heart, you know, the most expensive thing inside of this unit, if that thing were to ever fail, Amana's gonna replace this entire unit to the original homeowner, of course, right? But that should be a testament to let you guys know, when they're building these systems, they're building them so good, and they're putting a lot of sensors and a lot of safety devices into them to ensure that these systems do last a long time. You know, I know that the manufacturer is not building these systems to then all of a sudden, you know, say, oh yeah, we're going to be replacing these units left and right. No, they're not in the business of losing money. So you know you're getting a very, very good quality air conditioning, or if you go with a heat pump heating system as well. All right, guys, one of the most important things about the installation process, aside from everything that we've talked about so far, right? The flushing, the nitrogen, the pressure testing, all of that. The most critical thing that really needs to happen is the vacuum. Once we have flushed the system, once we have pressure tested it, once we have done everything in our power to ensure that that line set is ready to go and it's going to hold pressure, we're going to run our vacuum. Now our vacuum is going to remove any kind of moisture, any residue that's that can be boiled off inside of that copper line set. That's what this is going to do. Now if you read the instructions, again, now I'm talking to you. If you're the tech, if you're the contractor, if you install any kind of HVAC unit, the number one thing you got to do is read the manual, right? On these units here, they call for a triple evacuation, right? We fill it up with nitrogen, we break it, we do it again, we do our decay test, we do that 3 process to ensure we remove everything from there, and then we run our vacuum. Our vacuum, we're shooting for 250 microns. That's the number that we want to get to. Once we get to this level, which as you can see we have already achieved that, we're going to shut everything off, we're going to close off our vacuum, and then we're going to perform a decay test. Really what that's going to do is it's going to shut everything off, and it's going to let us know if there is any kind of leaks or any more kind of contaminants or moisture inside of the line. The manufacturer states that in that decay test, if the system does not raise above 500 microns within the 10 minutes, then we are good to go. A perfectly sealed unit, ready for the new refrigerant to be introduced to it. Now remember, this system here, this is the R32, guys, so it's the new A2L refrigerant. So all of these steps are even more critical. You don't want to have any kind of leaks. You definitely don't want to open up the system and then come to find out, oh my gosh, you know, we didn't weld the copper correctly and now we're gonna have a leak. And with the new A2L refrigerants, it's not as simple as like, oh my gosh, we can go back in there and fix it. No, we have to now really recover everything. We have to ensure that there is no more residue on that A2L refrigerant, because again, they're slightly flammable. So this step, aside from all the other steps, is the most critical, ensuring that we have a perfectly sealed system, which we have. So let's go ahead and get to the next process. The guys will open it up and we'll begin our system test through the Amana cloud.
you want to know how quiet the Amana S series is? It goes as low as 45 dBs. Super quiet. All right, now the system is in a test mode. We are testing everything out before the system is able to be commissioned into actually starting up and running. And so it is checking all the safety features on the compressor, the furnace, and the EEV coil as well.
The Amana S series is a side discharge, fully inverter system. One of the quietest in the market, guys. I'm whispering and this thing is on her now. Remember, this is also a 5-ton. This is the outdoor final walkthrough. We have the concrete pad. It is bolted down and secured. We do have gravel on the outside. We do have our service sticker here. We did do our disconnect. This is the 40 amp breaker. We also did our surge protector right here, our liquid tight conduit seal, our low voltage conduit seal. We do have our copper nicely ran to the back, and in the back we also do have our concrete bolt and washer as well. This will pass city code.
All right, now we're checking the heater on the startup. We have to warn our customers when this thing first starts up that it does burn off the oils from the heat exchanger as well from manufacturer.
Right now, as the system is doing is verification tests, right? Checking all the parameters, making sure that all the safeties are where they need to be at and work correctly. Let me just show you a little bit of how these units look like. Now with the S series and the R32 variant, really much not has changed other than a small couple things. The coil that now feeds the 4 and 5 ton units, it is a fully flush C cabinet coil, a little different than the old 410A coils, which were a D cabinet. That means that they were 20 by 24. These are now 20 by 20, which also allows us to install these units in much tighter compartments or attic spaces. Now look, the guys did a great job. We have the drain pan, our safety switch, we have our easy trap. Now this box back here behind the flue pipe, that's going to be right here. That's going to be the control for the coil, right? That's what allows the EEV to communicate with the indoor furnace control board, the thermostat. It allows all of the magic to happen. Since this is a prime install, guys, our guys did a really great job. We got our cutover traps. We have all of our wires nice and tucked away. We have our April air filter. All of our plenums have the dampers as well. So overall, very happy. And then we have our nice inverter loop right here with our liquid line dryer that's on the inside. And that's it. Everything looks really good. We're gonna wait for this thing to finish its safety test, and then we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna have another customer enjoying the benefits of the Amana S series in the R32 variant. Okay, Prime family, well that is it for today. Morgan, another great design.
Awesome.
Guys, look how quiet that unit is. Now listen, if you're in the Metroplex, that's Dallas, yes, Fort Worth, Denton, McKinney, okay, and you need any kind of air conditioning or heating repairs, maintenance, or full system replacements and design, we're your local family owned and operated company. We're located in Louisville, Texas, guys, so we are touching every city around that area. And we provide free estimates, free second opinions. Give us a call, 972-400-3602. And like always, Prime family, we'll catch you on the next one.